Writing online is a career fast track, but with over 203 million freelance writers worldwide, how can you stand out from the crowd? Peak Freelance gives you the tools to find better clients, raise your rates, and focus on doing work you enjoy. Plus, it gives you access to a supportive community of like-minded freelancers and experienced writers who make a living writing. All access members unlock a library of resources, templates, and expert interviews to grow and scale your business. Join Peak Freelance today.
Welcome back to Freelance Bitters! Cheers. Ashley, what are we drinking today?
Today we are drinking 1800 tequila.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
This was just our choice.
We just wanted to show it off.
But wait, bring it back. If you want to sponsor us next season, finish it.
You can sponsor us
You
next
can
season.
sponsor us next
Please
season.
get in touch.
Tequila 1800. Smooth and amazing.
Yay. Okay, so
Back we are
here.
in wonderful Guadalajara.
Talking to you. Okay.
Anonymous blogfish.
So oh yes. You can buy this at my merch store.
This is sponsored by Anonymous Blobfish.
This is sponsored by
A
Content
random
Connect.
Google thumbnail that actually turned into a wonderful sweatshirt.
Yes.
Check it out.
Is that illegal? Did I plagiarize?
I think so. Well, copyright or something.
I copyrighted. We Google.
And hopefully they don't, get us in trouble. So, anywho,
Go to Google and buy all of their stuff.
you already do.
Yeah, I go to Google and I buy all their stuff. Okay, so we sourced some questions from the audience, and we wanted to address what do you do when you're in a funk and want to get out of it? Because this is something that's really important when you're a freelancer, because it's very easy to get burned out, and it takes like a lot of mental effort to like be writing all the time for 20 years or whatever. So what do you do, Mike?
Well, I have a question first. Is a funk the same thing as burnout? I feel like the two are a little different. I feel like burnout would be like an extreme case of...
A funk?
Yeah, like it's like multiple funks.
Okay, well, let's talk about both.
Yeah.
So a funk might be like a day or two when you're just like not feeling it.
Yeah,
Okay.
like a funk.
Okay.
When you're in like a
So I do
funky
something very specific for that. Do you do something?
You tell us first.
Okay, so just a minute. So I typically like to plan my months of writing or my writing time like a month at a time. And I usually try, and this isn't always possible, but as hard as I can try, I try to get like my assignments for the next month, the last week of the previous month.
So impossible, but try.
Yes.
It's good to do.
And typically I can do, but sometimes anyway. So when I plan out my content, I do a couple of things. I plan days, like I don't plan every single day to have a due date. I plan like breaks in between so that I can have a little bit of flexibility, so that if I have a day where I'm like, I cannot focus, I need to go on a walk or to a movie or rest longer, whatever.
Or Mexico.
Or Mexico. I plan time so that I can shift things when I need to. I also plan my due dates in advance. So I'm not going to wait till, if I have something due on the 15th, I'm not waiting till the 15th to like finish my assignment. I always try to have it done a couple days advance.
Okay.
So that if I have those days, and I shouldn't say if I have those days, I should say when I have those days, because I have 2, 3, 4 of them every single month.
Yeah.
And then, so that's what I do as far as like trying to get out of funk, is just like planning around it and planning for it. And that helps me.
I like the planning for it. So my question then is how do you plan for a funk? Like, so like if you have a due date, say on like a Wednesday, and you happen to fall into a funk on like a Tuesday, or on the day that it's due.
I'll plan. I always like schedule myself.
Oh, you give
earlier.
yourself a few days.
So I give myself.
Oh, okay.
So I don't ever start like writing.
The day of.
Yes, the day of.
I
always write earlier.
Me neither. I never do that. I do it sometimes.
It happens. And sometimes like clients will need things last minute, and I try to plan for that, but I also can be accommodating and flexible for them.
Yeah.
At times. But so for me, it's just like really an issue of planning.
Yeah, for me, It's actually interesting too because I sometimes I prefer to write the day that it's due, and I know that's
Okay.
like the forgot like that's forbidden, right? Because you're supposed to leave it to edit it after and blah blah
Right.
blah. But what I actually sometimes, this doesn't have to do with funk or anything, but what I like to do is actually do all the research and outlining, and then having it due, like say it's due on the 15th, and I wake up early in the morning on the 15th, and I just crank out like a full on article from all the research and the outline, like an in depth outline, right? Like I already know everything I'm going to talk about.
Right.
I'm not going from blank page to article in 1 minute, but I'm talking like, and for whatever reason, the
Right.
kind of like anxiety, not anxiety, but the this thing is due pushes it out a lot faster. Yes.
I am not. I'm a
Okay.
total planner.
I'm a
So
procrastinator.
I think that for procrastinators, that's actually really good,
Yeah.
especially if you're like chunking it, the process.
Yeah. I
'Cause
can't
it's
do the
like-
full process in one day,
Yeah.
but I like
That's
to have it
impossible.
like done in sections.
Mhm.
And then just having that like feeling of like, oh, this thing's too soon. Like it like really, and you know, like I set out like a certain amount of time, and that's when it gets done by. It's got to get done by that time, you know. And then what I will do is I'll break, and then I'll go back and edit it. I don't think
Okay.
I've never felt like you need to sleep on something for 24 hours in order to get a good edit, but I don't finish and then just throw it out to the client. I do take a
Yes.
break, and then like say it's like maybe I go have lunch, and I come back, I grab a tea and a little sweet, and I sit down, and I'm like, all right, let's edit this thing now.
Okay.
And get it done. And that's also how I plan for funks in a way, is
Okay.
because I usually break things out into different steps.
Steps
Yeah,
in the process.
exactly.
I do that too.
Yeah. And like for an example of that also is like I usually it's such a cliche, but everyone hates the Monday, right? Like Mondays are just the hated day.
So the Mondays.
Yeah, exactly. And I really don't set many due dates unless it's like on accident, to be honest. Like I've done it before. But I don't set due dates for Mondays. So because I know Monday I'm gonna wake up, I'm not gonna be like my brain's not gonna be fully there.
Yeah.
And Mondays are just like funky days. And so what I normally do is like I set Mondays for research or outlining or even editing. Like if I do finish an article ahead of time, I'll leave space to edit it. And I mean that's what I love about the freelance life, right? Is like you choose to do what you want. But so yeah, that's usually how for Mondays. But if I'm like feeling super funky, like what the fuck am I doing? Why am I sitting at this computer for 10 hours a day type funk? There's really no solution for me besides getting the heck out of my office, you know, like really getting the heck out.
Yeah, I love that. And I loved what you said too about like going to get a tea or, you know, going to have some lunch or something. And for me, sometimes it really is just a matter like sometimes I need an hour more of sleep, or I need to go on a walk with my dogs, or I need to do something that makes me feel rejuvenated before I like try to dive back in. And if I give myself and I allow myself that time, then I can come back refreshed. And instead of staring at the computer for 5 hours, I'm like, okay, I've taken care of myself. I feel ready. My physical, mental, emotional needs are met, and I can dive into it a little bit better.
Totally. And for me too, like one thing that helped me get out of funk. So during the pandemic too, like I think a lot of us got into funks a lot easier because there's just, even if your place of living wasn't, even if where you live wasn't in a lockdown, it was still a weird situation to be in, like with the masks and with like, you know, things being open one day, closed the next day, and just like the uncomfort and uncertainty of going out of your house. For me, I got into a lot of funks because I was like, all I'm doing is working, because what the hell else am I supposed to do? There's no concerts, there's no movies, there's no, like, you know, there's like some restaurants are open, some are not. So I also hate the gym. And so what I was hitting these funks like very periodically throughout the pandemic, like in the middle, right? Because we had like not the honeymoon phase really, but you had the first part with the pandemic where you're like, oh, this is so weird. Like we should drink and order in food on Rappi, and then after, or Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever you use, and then kind of after that hump, you're like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? You know, like what is this? What is the point of this anymore? And you're just working all the time, so it was super funky. I hate the gym. So I didn't know like what else to do. So I started running, and running has completely changed the way that like my brain, I feel like, operates now. Like I don't fall into funks as much anymore. And mostly because like that time for running is my time.
Yeah.
It's uninterrupted. It happens before the workday even starts. Well, like meetings and stuff would start, because I get up at like 5 and I work a little bit because I like to write at that time.
Overachiever.
Overachiever. But it gives me the flexibility to stop whenever I want when I get up early. So,
Cool.
and then I run at like 7:30, and a series of different runs. It's not just like going out for 30 minutes, coming back. But
Okay.
that's like really changed kind of like the way that I approach work and my happiness, and it makes me feel more loose, like sitting at my desk. Like,
Yeah.
cause you know, when you just like sit at your desk forever and you're like, ugh, and you just feel like tight and your neck hurts and everything. But
Yes.
running like just gets out all that energy, you know, like it gets everything out. And I'm a person with a lot of energy. So for sitting at a computer for so long, and it just, after a while, I'm just like, I need to do something with this energy. Like I'm getting really sad over here because I have all this life energy, and running helped. And you also make friends, you know, like you see your crew of people in the morning when you're running, and hey, like how you doing? Blah, blah. And just like sweating and detoxing and getting all that like energy out of your body and into the world. And yeah, it's been a huge win for me personally, and it stopped me from funking out.
Okay. So getting exercise essentially.
Yeah, that was a really long-winded way to say exercise, but I wanted to make the point clear that I hate going to the gym. I was never a gym person.
But you like
I had to exercise because it was just, I was getting really sad like all the time without anything else to do.
I think that's good advice. Yeah, you always feel better when you exercise.
Or just move,
and
you know?
Drink lots of tea.
And drink lots of tea. I love tea. We have so many teas.
I said tequila.
Oh, tequila. That too, but I love tea also. So
amazing.
This episode is brought to you by Peak Freelance, the community for writers who want to grow their business, make more money, and get incredible clients. Check us out today.
So okay, so we kind of get the way like getting out of a funk, but like for you, like how do you balance being, because sometimes the funk is a result of being too full or too overstretched. So how do you manage like the pipeline? Like,
so are we talking about burnout now, or like how do I manage burnout, or how do I manage just like
no, how do you manage like your like freelance life, like in terms of like your schedule and having enough to meet like your income goals and having enough to like save time for yourself because you love to travel. You're like, she travels more than like anyone that I know, and you're a mom with 2 kids, you know? So like literally, how do you balance like a full freelance schedule, children, travel, and the life of Ashley R. Cummings?
I think for me, like I'm a very self-motivated person, and I like money, I like new challenges, but I don't think that work is the most important thing to me. Like it is something that like fuels my life and helps me, you know, pay for things or whatever. But I think that like really having boundaries around what it is that I need in order to make my income goals, and also to not like have so much work that I can't handle it. So for me, I like to set different boundaries, and that can fluctuate depending on what my needs are, what our financial needs are, what my family's needs are. Like there's a lot of factors that play into it. And there are times in my career where I've worked 60 hours and times a week, and times where I've worked 12 hours a week, just depending on, you know, like what I need. So I think that just being really aware of like what is important to you and what you need. And then if you're to a point where you're like, I have, and this was kind of pandemic-y for me. Like I had so much work and I had so much stress because our kids, you know, our kids were at home and they're very little still. My husband was at home. And work just kept, you know, flowing in. So for me, that was a good time to reefer work out. Like I've hit my max, I've hit my limit. I can send this to another freelancer who has more availability and will do a great job. And then I think that I have that system as well with other friends. Like if there are times when I'm like, oh crap, I need to take on, or I'd love to take on one more client, I can either cold pitch, or I can reach out to friends, or sometimes they'll send me referrals, and that's helpful. But yeah, I think for me, just like really setting those boundaries and setting time aside for myself and setting time aside for work. It's also very critical to set time aside for work because, I mean, as flexible as freelancing is, you still have to have those moments where you can sit down for 4 hours and just work and not have kids coming in saying, mom, whatever, and not having your dog barking at you, and not having
Or your dog closing your laptop.
Or your dog, yeah, my dog comes up to me and like closes my laptop. It's like, play.
Bring me out.
Yeah, it shows these little buttons. It's like walk outside. It's really funny and annoying. But yeah, so yeah, I would say establish your goals, like your needs, your wants across the board, and then just try to like really plan for those, and then set times when you can work uninterrupted. And sometimes, like honestly, like I like send my husband away, like if he's like at home, and like you have to leave now because I just want to like sit and talk to you and like convince you to like go to a movie with me or something. And so I'll be like, no, you have to go to work right now. Because if you don't go to work, I'll sit there and just be like,
yeah. Well,
I want to hang out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I do that, and then if I feel overwhelmed, I just make sure to plan time for the things that I love, which is travel or travel.
Traveling life. The traveling life of Ashley Cummings. She also has a travel blog. So
Travel
check
with
that
Ashley.
Out.
It's getting redesigned.
We'll
Right now, it's a disaster.
So no link in the comments, but yeah, I feel like dogs are such a funny indicator of like when you're working too much. Because for example,
I never thought of it that way.
For example, is like at 5:30. This is what I see. So at 5:30, let me show you. Pretend like the edge of the screen is my door.
Oh, okay.
All of a sudden, I see like a little nose pop in, and then I see, and then they just look at me and I go, "Yeah, soon," and then they just walk away.
Your dogs are less aggressive than mine. Mine's like, shut computer.
And then the other one will come in. She'll come right up to me and she'll be like, and I'm like, I know we're going soon. And she's like, and she'll turn and run away.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, okay, I know it's time to end the workday now. So they're my indicators of when it's time to be done.
Okay.
They're like, I want to go outside. This is your responsibility, Mike. You chose this. So
everyone needs a dog meter.
Yeah, dog meter. Because cats are a little more chill.
And she just stares at me until I'm like, okay, let's go. I guess this is awkward.
All right, time to get the electricals bike out and let her ride. Ashley doesn't actually walk her dog. She rides a bike and lets the dog run, which is actually pretty amazing.
This has been a recent development, though.
I like it, though.
Yeah, I do walk her, but also when she has like tons of energy. I have a Jack Russell Terrier. This is very important for freelancers to know. And she has so much energy. And so lately I've been riding my electric bike. And she like runs along beside me. And she loves it. And I think it's great.
I tried to take my dogs running, the both of them, and I twisted my knee. So I was like, well, I can't. Yeah, it hurt. It hurt. Because they're kind of like, one of them is bigger, obviously, as you know now. And she pulls. And then like it's Colin and I are like trying to chase her down the road. And I twisted my knee. So I was like, all right, we're going to have to find some other way to get some intensive exercise.
I love that we just took like a 4-minute dog tangent. Okay. So what else do you do to how do you balance?
I mean, this has actually been something that's really challenging for me over, the past more like 2 years. Because I do have pretty aggressive like income goals and life goals. So like, and just goals in general. Like I have a lot of goals, investment goals, life goals, income goals. So it's been really hard for me to kind of like find the balance. The life that I've chose is to not have kids and not have like a heavy mortgage and not have, so like for me, this is what I want to be doing.
Right.
So I usually push myself a bit further than I can go. But I also, take the help of other writers and researchers and editors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To kind of like assist the process. And that's really been the only way that I've been able to balance things out. So, because
it's a good way to balance and scale.
Balance and scale,
to kind of grow your business.
Because I'm not like a say no person. And again, that's because like I have really aggressive goals, and it's something that I'm not really afraid to admit. I know like we're supposed to do like work-life balance stuff, but I do still have a very fulfilling life. Like we travel 2-3 times a month. Like I can take off whenever I want. So I spend my time working a lot. But if it wasn't for things like, my Trello board to manage everything, I used to manage everything out of like Google Notes. I literally like who's working on what project was in Google Notes. And I was like, not Google Notes, Apple Notes. And I was like, all right, we need to, Apple Notes. I was like, we need to fix this because this is not right. And so, it's mostly like the exercise for me. It's mostly like exercise. And again, like being able to not say no, like if we want to go to another city and check something out for a couple of days, like I always say yes to those things. And
Yeah.
But I'm not the best at making time for myself, but I usually consider reading time for myself. So
Okay.
that's time for myself, right? And running, reading and running.
I think something important is happening though, which is like with one of the joys of freelancing is that you are the boss of your business and you get to do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
And it is really flexible. Like your life is very different than mine.
Right.
My life is very different than yours, even though we do literally the exact same thing. We have some of the exact same clients. Yeah, it's like, I think, what?
You're my competition.
We are competition. No, we're buddies.
We're
coworkers.
buddies.
But yeah, just like being really aware of what your individual needs are, what your, and that can be financial goals, it can be personal goals, and then just like building your business around that.
Yeah.
And so it is a personal decision. But yeah, for me, like being aware of that and then planning plays like a big role.
Yeah. And I think part of it too, to like cap this off, is also working on things that you do like to work on. Because the times where I have gotten into funks is where I had clients that I didn't really want to work with, topics that I wasn't really sure if I was going to be able to write about, and it took me a lot of fucking time to write on and like research. But playing in the places where you are confident, curious, or just love writing about. That was almost four. And love writing about. So those keeping those keeps me from getting into funks, because I'm like, I'm actually excited to write some articles or like refresh some articles. Like it's less, and versus when you go into a project and you're like, you might as well just go work the 9 to 5. Like, oh, I have to sit in this meeting. I have to do this. I have to do that. Like instead, it's more like, oh yeah, I chose this project. Like there's no one forced me to do this. I did it. So working on the things that you really want or like you love and or are curious about is super important to not getting into funks, and also managing like kind of, your work life.
I think that's important too. Like we talk about choosing a niche a lot, but that is one advantage. It's like the more, like when you take on a client that you're not super familiar with, there's so much research, there's so much onboarding, and really like producing good content is an ongoing process, an ongoing learning process. And so for me, being able to I write about e-commerce, retail, marketing for SaaS companies, and like having my eye on that makes it easier because I'm like familiar with the topic. I'm not stretched too thin. I'm reading like all the trends daily, and I'm interacting with people so that I know who to contact and if I have to get a quote or something. And so, I think that that's like a really good piece of advice.
Yeah,
is just if you operate where you're comfortable and where you like it does speed up the process because you develop and you develop your expertise.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's, do that.
I love that. And it's time for us to grab a drink. So we will see you on the next episode of
Freelance Bitters.